1-800-449-8255. And baby, you're on the Sharkalama Ding Dong Sharkadoodle-Doo, America's #1 syndicated radio talk show host. Sharky, me, Clark the Shark, right here at WABC Radio, FM, and AM. Not on the Sirius douchebag network where you can find Howard Douche. Fuck that. That's no fun. You're on the fun hour of fun power here on the Sharky Show, where it's just better talk radio. Sean Hannity, Eat Your Heart Out, Mario Lopez, and Hush Bimbo, and Michael Weiner, and Mark Levin, and Rick Dees, and all of y'all, Mark and Brian, Kevin and Bean, Kevin and Stryker, or Kevin and Spago, or Sago, or Saga, or whatever it is, Kevin, all of you guys pale in comparison to the fabulous, amazing, and inquisitive, distinctive, intricate, and supercalifragilisticexpialidocious of the Clark the Shark Radio Network here, baby, where I'm #1 worldwide, especially on Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, the third rock, Earth, and planet Judas. Even on Uranus, you guys, Clark the Shark is still #1. It doesn't matter where. And I have more knowledge than every other human being that ever existed, except for Dr. Demento. You guys, he's the one stick in my craw, or pebble in my shoe, or whatever they call it. I don't even know. He causes me major problems and issues because he's got a clean and solid delivery. He's smooth and beyond sophisticated, baby. Way better, more talented, more skilled, and more relevant, with more irreverence than yours truly, Clark the Shark. That's Dr. Demento. But he's the only one. I had to take Mario Lopez off the list. And Rick Dees and others. Hush Bimbo died. He sucked on a fucking tailpipe. As Michael Weiner would say, you know those big fat cigars, and people smoke them, they're like 1,000 times worse than cigarettes or marijuana, or how they used to say marijuana was 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times worse than cigarettes. But I am certain, you guys, that those fat cigars, that fat pig, that fat ass Hush Bimbo, he sucked on those cigars. He just huffed those for years, you guys. Huffing, I'm not sure if they were corporates, but he was huffing cigars, and then he fucking died of advanced stage 6 lung cancer or something that spread to his brain, thank God. And now there is no Hush Bimbo except for down in Satan's hell. I'm sure he's there because, as we all know, Hush Bimbo was a greedy fat slob of a fat pig. And he was always like, oh, let the free market decide. You're all just a bunch of losers. If you don't like the rent being $4,500 a month with 9 people all living together from Belize and El Salvador and Costa Rica, Nicaragua, 12 people living together, make the rent $6,000 a month. Hey, Hannity, Levin, Republicans, where does it end, you guys? When do we cap the price of rent and or do some kind of sort of meaningful rent control? Now, we know our friends over on the Democrat side of the equation, on the other side of the coin, if you will, They will never cut rent because, as you know, Gavin Newsom and his cronies love high rent here in California, as do other Democrats all over the nation in their blue states and red, where they are spreading like a cancer and a disease, because people think that if I just vote Democrat, they're going to give me cradle to grave SSI, SSDI, welfare, Section 8, EBT cards, CalFresh or whatever the fuck they call it forever. I'm just going to live off the government. And it's going to be a great existence. I'm just going to wake up at 12 noon and go to sleep at 4 a.m. after watching the internet all night, every day of my life, playing video games and just voting Democrat and socialist. It'll be a beautiful utopia, dystopia, just like they have out there in California. Oh, guess what happens when you have high socialism and cradle to grave-ism, Democrat, socialists? Your fucking state turns into a blue pile of shit like California, Oregon, New York, and Washington, where you have bloated governments printing money or stealing money from the federal government or somewhere. I don't know, maybe the EU or the UN, maybe Australia, maybe Russia, maybe China. I don't know where the United States gets its money to take care of all of its socialism and Democrats littered and spread about all throughout the lower 49 beneath Alaska. You guys, it's getting out of control. The socialism thing has got to end. But I wonder, where will the capitalism thing end with the greedy inflation, high rent, and milk that costs $6 a gallon and gasoline that costs $7 a gallon? Even Ray Davies and the KINKS, MISFITS, even they don't know, you guys. This incredible album that came out back in 1978. I think this was the second one on Arista. They put out the one where they were on RCA, you guys, the KINKS, for many albums that failed both in America and the UK. But they were really great albums, and I, Clark the Shark, love them. Everything from, I think Percy was on Pi back in England or whatever, but beginning with Muswell Hillbillies up through Schoolboys in Disgrace. I believe the KINKS were on RCA, failing, and they signed some big contract in 1971 where they got all this money and they built KINKS studios over in England. And they began writing songs about social justice and injustice on many, many albums. Preservation 1 and 2, the Yellow and Purple album. The Green album that has the Carnegie Hall shit on it. It's so awesome. I think it's Carnegie Hall. And, of course, the Green album, Everybody's in Showbiz, was 1972. And 1971, Muswell Hillbillies. Awesome, you guys. But they didn't sell. Things were bad. And then whatever his name was, the guy at Arista Records, Clive Davis, maybe, one of those guys. You could just call him Tommy Mottola or Irv Azoff or fucking whatever, dude. They're all the same guy. David Geffen. They're just these rich bean counter guys. And unfortunately, it takes some dude like Don Henley or Tom Petty to go, hey, these guys are fucking greedy douchebags and they won't pay us a fucking penny for our albums. And, Ray Davies was probably being ripped off by all his labels with the KINKS. I know that they were banned by the Federation of Musicians Union back in the 60s. And subsequently, the Kinks never played Monterey Pop or Woodstock or all these important gigs that they could have and should have played right here on the fabulous proverbial Clark the Shark Show from the golden EIB Sharkerphone. It's not a microphone, you guys, because unlike Hush Bimbo, I'm not in hell. I'm right here in purgatory with all of you in the Matrix, which of course is a simulation created by me, Clark the Shark. It's a sharkulation that I designed back in 1978 when I was only 13. And now it has taken over reality and all of you are in it and there's nothing you can do. You are all under the control of me, yours truly, me, myself, and I, Clark the Shark, where you're just figments of my sharkination. It's not an imagination, it's a sharkination. And I'm just dreaming all of you, and I made you all up. Your pathetic little lives are just worthless and meaningless, and it's a dystopia, you guys. I'm sorry. I built it all. This whole thing. There isn't a God. There is no God. There's just me, Clark the Shark. And I'm sorry. I'm just a mere mortal lad from Torrance, Redondo Beach, California. I'm not even that smart. No college degrees. I'm only 5'6", not that good looking. There's not a lot of friends or support. Nobody to fight for me or fight my battles or any of that. I'm just a 60-year-old guy with not much education. I basically write with crayons, you guys, but I am smart enough still to have built a sharkulation, which you all are in. Unfortunately, and fortunately, for all of you, me, Clark the Shark, I am a loving, kind God, and I'm gentle and sweet. And I love all of you. And so long as you pray to me every day and say novenas with a rosary to me, yours truly, Clark the Shark, I might be in a good mood and maybe I won't send you to eternal hell, where you will be burned and raped daily and nightly by Hush Bimbo, him and maybe Bill Clinton with their cigars. They'll be burning your arms, you know, like the Who, Tommy, where like Uncle Ernie was burning Tommy. Well, you're going to die and fucking go to hell. That's what I'm going to do to you if you don't pray to me and praise me in all my glory daily and tell me how fucking great I am. Seriously, you guys, you will, and I'm not kidding. I know a lot of you think I'm full of shit, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I never do. I'm always just full of crap. But you're wrong this time, you guys, and it's bad for you. Sit there on your YouTube at your computer, on Google or Yahoo or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or wherever you are, and you're stuck staring at your screen because you're staring at me, Clark the Shark, and Ray Davies. You know what, you guys, I'm wrong. Mario Lopez and Dr. Demento aren't the only two better than me. There's this guy named Ray Davies who did this album called Misfits in 1978. And he might be better than me, Clark the Shark. But I will determine that, not you. That isn't up to you. That's up to me, because this is not for you. It's for me, Clark the Shark, to decide what happens to you right here in the Shark Tricks, because I'm playing a trick in a game with all of you. And I've got a bet running with Satan that you might fail. And let me tell you right now, about 90% of you little human cretins, you little urchin, you're going to burn in hell. Only 10% of you, or 144,000 maybe, will go to heaven with me, Clark the Shark, for eternity in all of our glory. But if you pray and say enough novenas and praise me day in and day out, because after all, I created you. And you're just a mouse, and I could put a snake, a deadly copperhead, into a cage with you, like that guy does on YouTube, and you better hide and run, because the cage might be small, and you will have nowhere to go. right here in the Shark Tricks. I mean, the Matrix. I'm sorry, whatever it is, Nero or Nemo or Morpheus. None of you can escape anyway. It doesn't matter right here on the Clark the Shark Show, where today, on Saturday, March 23, 2024, the only thing that matters is Misfits by the Kinks, 1978. And me, Clark the Shark, I would consider this one of the greatest rock and roll albums ever recorded in the history of all mankind. I'm serious, you guys, and you better believe me and agree with me. You know what will happen to you if you don't. And unlike Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Willy Wonka's, that little experiment where Charlie gives him back the everlasting gobstopper or whatever it was, you won't return to your pathetic, miserable little lives after it. Yeah, you won't. You're all worthless and weak. You better drop and give me 250 right now, as a matter of fact, here on the Clark the Shark Show. Because if I'm in a bad mood, bad things might happen to you. And I don't just mean on the Clark the Shark Show. I'm talking tonight out on the freeway, out on the I-5 or the 15 or the 101 or, the 78 or the 56 or wherever, Irvine. You might get into a car and maybe you won't even be drunk. It'll be some other car with some fucking asshole DUI motherfucker run into you head on. And boom, you're dead and gone right here on the Clark the Shark Show. Yeah, get a load of that. You better listen up right now because I'm telling you about Misfits, the Kinks, 1978. The second album released on Arista, it wasn't A&M, Clive Davis convinced the Kinks, like, come on over to me, you guys, from RCA. Where the Kinks made $1 million or $2 million bucks, they built a studio and they stuck a bunch of money in the bank. I'm not sure what Clive Davis or Irv Azoff or whatever his name was, or, Tommy Mottola or David Geffen or, dude, whoever the guy was at Arista, I think it was Clive Davis. I'm not sure if he ever paid Ray Davies or Dave Davies or any of these guys a dime. Probably not much. And it could contribute to why the Kinks just don't give as much of a fuck as they should, when they're making albums. But on this album, it seems like the Kinks and Ray Davies were firing on all cylinders here, baby. Because the album before this, Sleepwalker, was pretty good. It was kind of a shock. And the one before it, Schoolboys in Disgrace, 1975, was pretty fucking good. They didn't have an album in 76. I don't think they were signed to any label. And then Clive Davis or whoever signed them, they got on Arista, baby. And the rest is history because two incredible albums in a row. Sleepwalker, 1977, and then this one, 1978. And I think all Kinks fans will agree. If you go up and down, the line back to 1963, right on through to today in 2024, if you talk to a lot of hardcore Kinks fans out there, like me, yours truly, Clark the Shark, we will tell you that this album, Misfits, is one of their greatest. And even non-Kinks fans who just casually know this band, they agree and think that too. All three of these albums, the first three anyway, on Arista, the one after this one too is really good, you guys. They could have been better, that being said, but they are really fucking good. You can tell that the guy, Clive Davis, kind of knows what he is doing. When he took the Kinks over from RCA over to Arista, these guys just started doing some good shit here, you guys. Great shit. I don't care what the stars say of the Kinks, Misfits, 78. It's one of my favorite albums, period. All Music gives it a 4.5. And baby, that's true. Blender, just a 3 out of 5. That's not true. That's inaccurate. The Encyclopedia of Popular Music, 4 out of 5. Sure, you guys. I'm not sure what Rolling Stone gave it. I'm sure they loved it, though. They love the Kinks. They love to suck Ray's cock over at Rolling Stone. Come on. Christ Gow's Record Guide, B. Christ Gow or Christ Gow. Come on, you guys. Only a B. I mean, this thing's, and me, Clark the Shark, if you're going to add me to this, I see on some of these, they add the C of douchequility. The douchebag, that guy. He's really fucking important, huh? He really knows the Kinks. You know, that guy's all into metal, and he glosses over when he reviews the Kinks or whatever. He just gives them lip service. Or, dude, you got to go to people who grew up like me, Clark the Shark, listening to the Kinks back in Redondo Beach, Torrance, Lomita, Hermosa Beach, riding a Strand cruiser all the way to Venice. When you could ride a bike to Venice, you can't now because there's homeless everywhere, and you might get stabbed and raped or something by someone on the bike path in Venice. So I recommend don't go there now. Yeah, you heard it from me, Clark the Shark, right here on the fabulous, incredulous, dynamic Clark the Shark show. Side 1. Misfits title track is awesome. It's just like this kind of a mellow little tune, you know. You're a misfit, afraid of yourself, so you run away and hide. I think Ray was writing a song about me. Because me, Clark the Shark, I am a misfit. I'm kind of afraid of myself, but I'm more afraid of all of you than I am of me. But I do run away and hide. But even still, you can find me here at the Clark the Shark show. I love Misfits. It's a classic, amazing song and title track, and it's a great way to open this album. It might be a little too mellow. It could have rocked more, but maybe no. I love it just the way it is. And, you know, Clive Davis probably loved it, you know. And I can see here where the Kinks are writing songs for Clive Davis to get his stamp of approval. And then he's kind of learning that maybe he isn't the pop genius that he thinks he is, because these songs are failures on the radio and all that, but they're brilliant, amazing, incredible failures. They're the fucking kind of failures that you love. And, you know, Misfits, such a great way to open this album, you know, where Ray is just narrating this story about me, Clark the Shark. And I am grateful and appreciative and that he would write a song in honor of me, Misfits, because that's what I am. And maybe perhaps that is what a lot of you are out there right here on the Clark the Shark show. You're really afraid of the true, real you, so you run away and hide. You've been a misfit all your life. Why don't you just mellow out and come inside and hang out with me, Clark the Shark, right here on the Clark the Shark show from the Golden EIB Sharkraphone. It's not just a mere microphone, you guys, because mere mortals speak into one of those. Me, Sharky, I'm a Superman, like an Uberman, Uderman. Remember on Saturday Night Live, they had Uderman. That's me, Clark the Shark. Maybe I'm really not just a plain old misfit like what Ray was singing about here, but I love the song, you guys. It's amazing. And then Hey Fever. It's like a quirky, weird little song. Hey Fever. I like it. You know, I remember when I first heard this album about, 1982, when I was 17 or so, at South High School in Torrance. Went and bought this album somewhere, at a garage sale or I don't know, maybe even at a record store. But I remember I loved Hay Fever. I really did, even though I could tell, it's not a big hit song for the radio. but like, sniffing like a hound. He's got like such hay fever. He can't be with his girl, and make love or go dancing. He can't do anything. He's just blowing his nose full of snot. He's just got hay fever. I love it. And, live life. No one going to live your life for you, and I'm telling you that right now, all of you out there, except for me, Clark the Shark. I actually died for you and paid the price for all of you. So you don't even have to live life. You're not even real. You're just robots. All of you are just AI. And you will live forever, maybe. Maybe in heaven gloriously with me, possibly, or you will burn in that other fiery bad place. Or you can just remain here in the shark tricks in purgatory or sharkatory, whatever you want to call it, where you live life. I mean, I love Live Life, you guys. Great song. Nobody gonna live your life for you. Except for me, Clark the Shark. I actually paid the price for all of you. And A Rock and Roll Fantasy, one of the greatest songs in the history of all rock and roll music and all music in general. Don't want to spend my life living a sharky fantasy. What a song, you guys. Incredible, amazing. A song doesn't get any better than Rock and Roll Fantasy by the KINKS. You got to buy this album for side one because it's incredible. And I just want you to buy this whole album just for A Rock and Roll Fantasy. What an incredible song. You just have to hear it, you guys. It's amazing. I must have played the song 10,000 times in the bathtub. And I enjoyed it while just sitting there in the hot water. By the way, rest in peace to Matthew Perry. He was sitting in a jacuzzi high on ketamine. And as you all know, that's how me, Clark the Shark, I love to do drugs and then go sit in a jacuzzi or a hot bath. And it's even funner when I'm listening to amazing music. And I have many memories of just sitting in a hot bath and listening to A Rock and Roll Fantasy by Ray Davies and the Fabulous KINKS. Awesome. And, in a foreign land, I love it. It's not lit up in blue, but it's a great song. Side one is awesome, you guys. Every single song. He paid all his tax and blah, blah, blah. Now he's in a foreign land, like running from the creditors or the tax guy. That's like me, Clark the Shark. I'll be doing another bankruptcy soon and maybe living in a foreign land. Who knows? Permanent Waves, which could also be a album by Rush, you guys. Side two is incredible too. I love Permanent Waves. It kind of tries to be a hit song and it isn't in a brilliant way. Good song, solid. It could have been a bigger hit for the KINKS. I hear it on the radio, you guys, Permanent Waves, in my mind, even though it really didn't get there like it should have. I remember, I think I heard it on KLOS around LA back in the day, and it really didn't take hold of the radio like it should have. But it's solid. I love Permanent Waves. It's a great way to start side two. Now, here's where we get a little controversial. Black Messiah, one of my favorite songs of all times by the KINKS and by any band, period, rock and roll or otherwise, any style of music. Black Messiah. And of course, me, Clark the Shark, I wrote my own version of this song in 1990, the White Black song, also known as White Black Thang. And I played it to Phil Keegan and Rick Carmody in the Greenhouse Effect, and they just laughed. And, I was giving them this big story how this song was going to change the world because I'm going to have these big guitars, but it's not heavy metal. It's it's kind of like that song Black Messiah by the Kinks. I'm going to hammer home this message that, no matter what color we are all equal and we are all the same. Even it doesn't matter if you listen to rap or hip hop or, or you're prejudiced or racist or whatever you are. You can't get away from humanity, that the good Lord above created us. Or maybe it was I above, Clark the Shark, that created all of you. And you better listen to me when I say it really is just a white-black thing, and or Black Messiah, where we are all just equal, you guys. We're all just God's children, like Ray Davies says. Like, man made the buildings that stretch to the sky, but he couldn't make me and he couldn't make you. It's like that, you guys. It's like God did everything. I'm just kidding around, you guys. God didn't do it. I did it. Me, Clark the Shark. I made all of you. And I actually love all of you, but I will still send you all to hell if you don't fucking love this song, Black Messiah, by the Kinks and Ray Davies. But I want to get back to the story about my song, White Black Thing. I played it to Keegan and Carmody. They laughed at it. And then later that night, me and Carmody were, in Ted's room down by the park, El Retiro Park. And I was explaining to Ted about the new sound that's going to be coming in the 90s. There's going to be all kinds of bands and three-piece bands, like our band. That are going to be rocking grunge, kind of like Neil Young or Iggy Pop or the Stooges, or David Bowie kind of music. And I would tell everyone this, and they'd be like, "Sharky, you're full of shit. You're a goddamn genius, dude. We love you, but this time you're just making nonsense." And I'm like, I swear to God, you guys, the record labels are going to start signing alternative rock and indie bands. It's going to happen. And my band, The Greenhouse Effect, is going to be at the forefront. Me, yours truly, Clark the Shark, because only I have the knowledge. And people were like, "Sharky, you never know what you're saying." They go back to smoking their weed and drinking their beer and whiskey, and then they walk off into the sunset laughing at me, Clark the Shark. And I usually end up all alone, sitting in a room, writing a song or something, and talking to myself like the village idiot. And anyway, I made a demo of White Black Thing in 1990 all by myself, and I mailed it to all these record labels, and I was like, "You guys, this type of sound is going to be hip, it's going to be hot in the 90s." And even record labels were like, "Clark the Shark, you're full of shit. You're a fucking idiot. You never know what you're talking about. You're just always babbling nonsense and living in your own little world." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Everyone's right. I'm full of shit. It's true." So then, as years would kind of go by, just a year or two, Phil Keegan was no longer in the band. And then me and Ted recorded, Going Legit, 1991, Star, Ben is Dead, Hey Negrita, 22nd Street, America the Beautiful, all those songs. But I was like, you know what? I got this bigger, better, more incredible song in me that I am going to go record. And I went and recorded the White Black song in March of 1991. And it was such an explosive, incendiary, controversial song. And I remember playing it to Ted, and he actually played the bass on the song in the studio. We were the only two playing. I played the drums, and then we overdubbed the guitars, vocals, and we sat back and listened to it, and it had these big, powerful guitars that were sludgy and grungy, but it wasn't heavy metal. It was entirely this whole new sound. And me and Ted were like, even we were like, "What is this?" We didn't even know. And so I started mailing it to labels like an idiot, like I do, me, Clark the Shark. And from there, I will say no more. That's the end of the story. That was March, April, May 1991. And I must have mailed that song to about 50 labels, major, indie, you name it, the big four, Sony, Geffen, Capitol, all of them. A&M, Arista, IRS. You remember Music Connection magazine. I would get all their addresses and phone numbers, and I would talk to these people one-on-one, and I'd be like, hey, I'm Clark the Shark from the Greenhouse Effect, check out this song. And I never heard anything back, you guys. This was 1991. Me, Clark the Shark. Heavy metal was huge. Sebastian Bach, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, Poison, Scorpions, all that shit. Gigantic. There was no indie alternative or any of that in 1991. Of course, until the end of 1991, when this guy called Blake Douchebag suddenly showed up on the scene at Geffen Records, of all places. Yeah, we're getting a little somewhere now, aren't we, here on the Clark the Shark proverbial show. But anyway, I think it all started with this song, Black Messiah, the KINKS, because this song was the inspiration for White Black Thing by me, yours truly, Clark the Shark, and the Greenhouse Effect. I'll say no more. I'll leave it at that, you guys. Just keep in mind, 1991 and 1990, it's all heavy metal, you guys. There's no grunge. There's no indie. There's K-rock. There's stuff like The Cure. And, there's bands like the Smithereens and, stuff like that floating around. But there's no big alternative scene at all, except for in Redondo Beach, where I'm throwing all these shows, and up there in Seattle too. But you know what? I'll tell you the truth about Seattle, you guys. That was a heavy metal scene with like Queensryche and you notice most of the bands out of there are like Pearl Jam. They're not really all that indie or alternative as it's cracked up to be, you guys. If you want the truth, Blake Douchebag and a couple others are like the only ones right here on the Clark the Shark show. But I will say no more. I would say the indie punk rock alternative scene was Redondo Beach in 1989, 90, and 91. And yours truly, Mr. Clark the Shark, who threw all those shows at Wilson Park in Torrance. All inspired by this song, Black Messiah, the KINKS, 1978, an album I grew up on and wrote the White Black Thing song from this song. And then I mailed that song to all the major labels. Hey, dude, there were other bands, that were playing alternative and indie before Blake Douchebag. Bad Religion, they were. No Control, that ring a bell? A whole bunch, you guys. And a lot of bands got kind of screwed and glossed over, I don't get it, you guys. I just don't get it. It's weird how so many three-piece bands got signed in the 1990s, early to mid 1990s, but we will leave that there. Maybe it was just me, Clark the Shark, torturing myself, since it's true that it is me who runs everything. But, yeah, it is all fucking interesting, huh? Right here on the Clark the Shark show. But anyway, back to side 2, Out of the Wardrobe. That's a killer song. It's uncomfortable and awkward and uneasy to listen to, but I fucking love it. Once again, Ray Davies writing, like The Who, Tommy, or maybe even me, Clark the Shark, writing a song that's you're just creeped out and you feel weird listening to it. And you're just like, turn this off. I can't take it. But it's true, people. It's good shit. Now, Trust Your Heart by Dave Davies. There's always like one Dave Davies song on every KINKS album. And it's often like the best song on the whole album or something, or definitely the weirdest, most quirky song. Now, as we all know, Dave Davies doesn't really stick to verse, verse, solo, verse, chorus, or bridge, or verse, bridge, chorus. He doesn't do that. His songs are all disorganized and like the guy's insane or something, like he's on psych meds, or maybe he needs them. Trust your heart. You got to listen to this song. It's like the best song on the whole album or something. Once again, by Dave Davies. Awesome. It is so fucking amazing. Side 2, you got to hear just for that song. And Get Up, the final track on the album, Ray Davies, awesome. Maybe could have been better, could have been longer or something, or it's kind of formatted to be a hit song or a great song for the radio. And then, it deserved to be on the radio. And then what's kind of funny is it just ends up a throwaway B-side at the very end or something. And you're like, dude, Get Up by the Kinks. It's a fucking awesome, incredible song. It's 3:22. It's perfect hit song. I mean, why wasn't Clive Davis just reaching into his own wallet and paying the payola to Get Up on the radio? Awesome song, you guys. But all in all, the Kinks, Misfits, 1978, one of the greatest albums ever recorded. It's just a little guitar rock and roll album. I think it might be the final album with bassist John Dalton. You know how the two Johns came into the Kinks about 1970 for, John Dalton, I think 69 with Arthur. And then here, I think the other John left, John Gosling, the album before, maybe. He just faded out. And then this one, John Dalton, was his final album, sadly, with the Kinks, you guys. Of course, Ray Davies, vocals, guitar, piano, synth, genius. Too genius for his own good and to his detriment. Dave Davies, quirky, just a weirdo who doesn't get along with his own brother, Ray. I mean, these two guys hate each other. It's like they're not even brothers. Backing vocals, lead guitar. It's just a rock and roll album, you guys. Mick Avery, solid, but in my view, Clark the Shark, he's an uneven drummer. He has his moments where he's incredible. He's all over the spectrum, you guys. And then he has times where he sounds like Charlie Watts, or maybe even like as bad as Lars Ulrich from the Ruddles. God help me, I just said that. It's true, you guys. Mick Avery is all over the place. He has moments where he's like Keith Moon or Bobby Elliott, and he's just tight and snappy, and his kick drum and his snare are just crackling and cracky. They're awesome. And then, like, he's got these other songs where you're like, give him a Red Bull or a coffee. What's wrong with him? John Gosling, piano, organ, synthesizer. I think this is like his last album, you guys. I get the two Johns mixed up, but and I know right around this period they both left. Andy Pyle, he's on bass here. Now, they did get this Jim Rodford guy that we all know about on the next album after this, and he was in the Kinks for a long time. John Dalton bass. I think this is in a Foreign Land is the only track he plays on, you guys, John Dalton, but he was in the Kinks for a long time, along with Gosling on keyboards. These guys are underappreciated, man. They strung the Kinks along, and they helped the Kinks not just survive, but thrive for many, many albums, many, many shows and tours. John Dalton and John Gosling, and me, Clark the Shark, I want to say thank you to you two guys. You guys were great. Kinksmen, thanks for being in the band. Even if Ray or Dave never thanked you, you're going to hear it from me, John, and the other John. I don't even know if these guys are still alive, but wherever you guys are in the universe, thank you for being with the Kinks. That's coming from the heart of me, Clark the Shark. I love Ray and Dave, but they're very human. They're very earthy guys, but they also are much like AI robots. They're kind of like NHL fighters, like goons on the ice, the way they will just suddenly drop the gloves and fight and hate each other with all their heart. But then there's, they have these tender moments also where they like love each other and they're the best of friends and bros. But not often enough, you guys, here on the Clark the Shark Show. I almost wish their brotherhood could have been stronger. And maybe, there could have been more Kinks double albums where you have like 4 tracks written by Dave Davies instead of just 1 or 2, maybe even 5, because his songs, quirky and weird and strange though they are very solid, great songs. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, I want all of you, it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're 12, 13, 18, or 63 years old, I want you to buy the Kinks Misfits 1978, because this is one of the greatest Kinks albums ever. It is, you guys. It's also one of the greatest rock albums ever recorded. It is the 17th studio album by the Kinks, but only the 2nd with Clive Davis on Arista, you guys. But it's